Thank you.
More on taxes and how this affects you. Tomorrow, President Trump will meet with Republican senators as the chamber pushes for a vote on the Senate version of this Republican tax plan at some point this week. But another headwind has hit the CBO. The Congressional Budget Office just projected that the Senate plan would increase the deficit. Look at all those zeros on your screen. It is $1.4 trillion over the course of the next 10 years. So Mattie Duppler is with me, senior fellow at the National Taxpayers Union. Mattie, so nice to have you on. And by the way, the CBO office repeated the findings from Nonpartisan Joint Tax Commission. So Mattie, welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And so back to that group. So that group found that people making less than $75,000 would see their taxes go up by 2027, just throwing all these numbers out for people playing along at home. That is more than 3/4 of the population that would be hit under this tax plan, yes?
So to buy into the CBO analysis, there's one crucial premise that I think most Americans will reject, which is that the American taxpayer will suffer if the government isn't paying out a bailout to insurance companies, which we know simply is not the case. So when you look at the CBO report, it's looking at spending that they're extrapolating from the JCT analysis of the Senate bill, which of course is the other nonpartisan congressional scorekeeper when it comes to taxation plans. And we know two things from JCT, two very important things. One is that there's tax relief granted at every income level in the Senate plan, and two is that it retains the same amount of progressivity as the current code. And that's a really important component that we saw in the unified framework when it was released several months ago, and that has been reiterated in both the House and Senate plans.
So why is this plan, and again we hear from the White House that this will be good for the middle class, but when you actually crunch the numbers, you know, why is this tax plan hitting both low income and low to middle income so hard?
Well, some of these assessments, they are a little bit shaded by the fact that, especially in the Senate, you have budget rules that really restrict what you can do with tax policy, and in effect restrict what you can do both in the 10-year, in the current budget window, and also permanently. So the reason that some of these scores look like they don't deliver the tax relief that they actually will in the long term is because of the gaming that legislators have to do when it comes to scoring these bills. So some of the tax relief in these bills is right now scheduled to be temporary, while other tax cuts in the bill will be permanent. Now, this is something that I think has gotten a lot of ink spilled on it, but really in the long run will produce the growth effects and the relief that middle income taxpayers need, and that's for two reasons. One, going back to the JCT score, JCT itself says that some of this relief that we're granting to businesses is going to be seen immediately for workers. Workers are the ones who will bear the benefit of a corporate income tax cut. So that's something that is made permanent in the Senate and the House bills, but also will continue to deliver dividends beyond just the tax relief in the window. Now, even if the tax relief on the individual side is set to expire in a couple of years, there's precedent that shows that that simply is not going to happen. I mean, look at the Bush tax cuts. Even President Obama signed into permanent law 85% of the Bush tax cuts. So I would argue moving forward, getting the needle starting to move in favor of personal tax income relief will continue to have that ball rolling down the field when it comes to time to renew that tax relief.
Okay. I know it's a lot of information for people to ingest, but we threw just the numbers up on the screen to see what would happen depending on how much money you're making, and if that you end up hurt or helped by the tax plan. It's all spelled out for you on CNN.com. Mattie Duppler, thank you so much for walking us through it. Thank you. Still ahead here, President Trump reportedly telling people that The Voice on that infamous Access Hollywood tape where he